Hi everyone, and welcome to the book Refuge, and today we are doing my season 3 review and comparison of Outlander with Voyager. So first off, two things. One, my throat is a little bit scratchy today and it's a little bit rough, so I will be taking lots of drinks of water. I just needed to record because I have been stuck in my house for 3 days. Today's day number 4 from the huge storm that hit the Midwest. There's a plow finally going by after this, so it'll be great because after I record, I can finally go into work. I've never wanted to go into work so bad as I do right now. I'm just saying, because I need people. I need people in my life. It's been a long day. So I'm gonna get started with this. So the way I've been doing these reviews is just going over some pros and cons based on things that I really like about the show just in and of itself, as well as how it compares to the source material of Voyager. And season 3 is really where we start to get our first big divergences and where some things really start to change from the original. That will have long-lasting effects going all the way forward in this series of the show, at least. So first off, let's start with the pros. So the hype going into Voyager was very high into the 3rd season. I was so excited. We had that crazy cliffhanger where Claire's standing at the stones and the light comes up and shines on her eyes and she's like, I have to go back. Well, we start season 3 with what was happening with Jamie while Claire was coming back. So, and that's kind of what we get to see over the next like 5 episodes, is of what their lives are like in parallel leading up to when they come back, as well as what Claire and Roger and Bree are doing to find Jamie and discover where he might be in this 20-year time, because the time runs parallel, as we found out when Claire came back in the last one. So for every time that passes, they are 202 years apart in time. The way this is a pro for me is I think it builds the tension very well. I think the scenes of Jamie's past are so good. Well, not his past, what he's living through, but because a lot of the stuff I mentioned in my Voyager review is the pain that the beginning of that book gave me, just the gut-wrenching hopelessness that neither of them will ever be with their true loves again. And now we know that Claire knows he's alive, or we think he is. He at least survived Culloden, that's all we know. And the way the book does it is that they'll show a chapter of Roger or Claire's point of view, because we still don't have Bree's point of view yet. We add Jamie's point of view in book 3. And we get to see them find him in a place, and then you see parts from Jamie's point of view while he's there. And they kind of do that same thing in the show, except they intersperse it with where Claire and like Frank are at. So we don't see Roger and Bree with Claire until like episode 4, I think it is, which has the very powerful stuff at Clearwater. Or Hellwater, not Clearwater, Hellwater. So I feel like they built that tension up very well, showing Jamie's hopelessness, showing the things he's having to deal with, first wanting to die and then being saved at the last moment, basically against his will, because he planned to die. And it's like fate is taking care of him because fate knows that he's gonna have a happy ending. He just doesn't know it yet. And so we see him be rescued basically against his will. Then we see him back at Lollybrock living as the Dunbonnet up in the hills in a cave. And it's very hard because he's lost all will to live and he's barely a human. And Jenny and his nieces and nephews and his family, just, it hurts to see him like this so much that, you know, they kind of want him to forget Claire only because like it hurts them so badly. And he tells them all that she's gone. And I think it's so good. Sam Heughan's acting is amazing. And I say this every time, like he really does embody Jamie Fraser to me. When I read the books, I don't always see the same Claire because I feel like the voice in my head for Claire isn't Katrina Balfe. I still think she does amazing, but for me, the person who most embodies their character is Jamie, and that stayed the same with me through every season that I've seen. He embodies him the most to me, and I think it's an amazing transformation to see him play James Fraser. So another pro for me is all the new characters we get introduced to. Voyager is really about meeting a ton of people. Some characters we already knew who are grown up, like Fergus. I love the adult Fergus we get introduced to later on. I love young Ian. He is one of my favorite characters going forward in the book series, and so I was so excited. I think John Bell was perfect because he definitely more fits into the 16-year-old, but I believe that he'll be able to play that older Ian as we grow, because if you don't know, we're going to see a lot of these characters over the next 10 years of their life is where we're up to in the books. By book 8, it's been about like 12 years since Claire comes back, like 10 or 12 years by the time we get up to there. And I love how immediately you feel his connection with Claire. He calls her auntie right away. I love when he calls her Auntie Claire. Like, really, it hits me so much. And we don't get to spend much time with him in Voyager because we only see him in about 2 episodes before he's captured, and then we get him a little bit at the end. So he really makes an impression on you. You know who we're fighting for. You know what is at stake when he gets taken. And I feel like John Bell does a really good job getting you in that headspace of like wanting him to be okay. I also love Lord John Grey. Oh my God. The actor who plays him is so amazing. It just flew right out of my head what his name was. He's amazing. He is much taller and more strong looking than our Lord John Grey is. That is something that I actually like kind of block out when I read him, because I see this John Grey. Because when I first read the books, I didn't picture him as like being 5'6". I think he's like 5'5" or 5'6", and it's supposed to be really delicate features and a little bit more, but not effeminate, because he's still described as like strong jaw, strong, but just short and like very beautiful is how he's described. And I just see this actor as him now when I read it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. It changes the dynamic a little bit because, he's still so in love with Jamie that it doesn't affect it too much, because he's always kind of like soft-spoken and just like, it's hard to describe him, but whenever he's around Jamie, he's just, especially once he's in love with him, it's really cool to see them together. And he plays that longing like just perfect. Like, not so much that it's pining, but you can see it in the way he looks at him, the way he emotes with him. You can just tell that he has deep feelings for this man, and he knows it's not going to go anywhere. He's not going to do anything about it. But he does so well. And the scene when he makes a move on Jamie, and, Jamie having had traumatic experiences with redcoat officers in the past, especially someone in a power position over him, he's like, take your hand off me or I will kill you. And Lord John just like lets him go, and then just like the tear that goes down his face. Oh, it just stabs me in the heart. I love it so much. He's fantastic. I love Marcelly. Get introduced to Marcelly. I think she is so cool. I love the actress who plays her, and I can't wait to see her in future seasons. She doesn't get a ton to do in Drums of Autumn, not in the book either. She's only in, like, I don't even think she's in that book at all. I just read that and I can't remember. But she is feisty right from the beginning. This 15-year-old who decides she's going to marry this 30-year-old, and she's the initiator in it. And she's like, I'm marrying him and you can't stop me. And I can either marry him in the proper way or I'll marry him as a tramp, but I'm marrying him. And I just love it so much. And I love that Fergus has someone who loves him so much. And I just love her because you see a little bit of her mother in her, but I honestly see like a lot of Jamie in her too, that like stubbornness, and it's so cool. Like, I just love it. So then a couple more things for my pros. I really love the cutting down of the fiend plot. I really don't like that plot in the book, that there's some guy who's killing prostitutes, and then we find out that it's Campbell at the end, and I just didn't like that. I don't really like the Campbells at all. I don't like their storyline. The Margaret Campbell and her, like, when she channels Bree, it's so weird. It's weird in the book, and it's even weirder in the show to have this girl, like, this woman being Brianna, and it's awkward. So I really love that they, like, cut out that murderer plot and just had it be that the Campbells were working for Galis, even though that's going to be in my cons in a second. So I like that they cut that down. And I also like what they did with Willoughby, even though I kind of just wish they'd cut that character. I know that he adds some diversity to the cast, but the kind of diversity he adds to the book is really bad. I think in general, everybody agrees that how Chen Cho is done in the book is not great. He's full of stereotypes. It is degrading how he acts, and it's just, like, not good at all. And in the show, they don't make him that degraded. Like, he's still looked down upon by a lot of the people, but he's able to, like, bring something to the story and, like, actually saves JB in one of the scenes. But I feel like they only kept him along to do something with him in the end with Margaret, and I feel like that same role could have been done by one of the escaped slaves, and then we just could have cut out Chen Cho altogether. But that's just my opinion. That's a con for me, or I mean a pro for me, that they changed him. But in my opinion, I think they could have just cut Willoughby, because he doesn't serve any purpose for the story as a whole, and I think he's just really awkward fit in. So let's move on to my cons, and then I'll say some of my favorite scenes, because I feel like that works good. So some cons for me: changing the ending. So I know the purposes they did this. They love Galis. The actress who plays her is amazing. But I don't know. I just don't know how I feel about it. Because in the book, I don't like her either. But I just don't know how I feel about it. I feel like it's not set up well enough throughout the story, and it isn't in the books either. But if they were going to change it and making Galis who she is and, like, how she is, I wish they just would have done it different. And I don't have an answer for that. I'm not a story writer. I'm just telling you, I don't like that they changed it, but I also don't like the source material, so I'm just kind of in the meh about it. I hate the Doldrums episode. I think almost everybody does. It is so boring. And one of the things I feel during this season a lot is I feel that the first 6 episodes do so good. Like, I'm glad they didn't rush through them getting back together, even though we all wanted it to happen sooner when we're waiting for the episodes to come out, because you're like, just put them together. But they're apart for the first third of that book, and I feel like that's what they did on the show too. So I don't begrudge any of that. I'm really glad that, I didn't put this in my pros, but I'm really glad that they do start to show the darker sides of Frank, because I feel like he's always been painted as kind of just like a man of circumstance, and like it's fine, everything that he did. But they also don't make him as dark as he had. Like, the Frank in the book, he's pretty racist. He's not completely misogynistic, but kind of. And he systematically steals Brianna away, at least her heart, from Claire. And they really only touch on that for a couple minutes. And it's when, like, Frank, he's had the same mistress for 10 years. Yeah, here's cons for me. He had the same mistress for 10 years. And that she's been waiting for him to get free because of Bree. And that's just shit. Okay, that's shit. Frank, he wasn't necessarily with these women because he was looking for someone else to love. He was doing it as a constant punishment to Claire. And then they would have, like, angry sex about it, because she'd be like, you're my husband, and no matter who else you're having sex with, you will do it with me. And in the show, they just make it seem like they were living as separate people in the same house, and Claire was just celibate all this time with him. And again, it's just making Frank look better. And I'm not okay with it. Like, even though I love Tobias Menzies, he could have played a darker version of Frank than he had to. We've seen him do it. And I think that showing where he went to is very important. And I don't like how they did it. I don't. They just love him too freaking much, and I hate it. So, yeah, so I hate the Doldrums episode. That's where I started with that. Because we only have so many episodes, and the back half is just too chaotic. The back half, we don't know what the hell we're doing, and it doesn't have a clear vision for me. We have all these side quests, the on the island stuff where she's trapped, and it's a whole episode of it. In the book, that goes so much faster, and it's way more interesting. And so that's I feel 2 episodes in the back half that are just a complete waste of time, because wherever we start at the beginning of the episode, we're back where we were at the end of it. And so then that whole episode didn't mean anything. We didn't progress. On the island, the only thing that happens that is significant is that Marcelly and Fergus finally get married. My throat is starting to go. So let's, oh yeah, my final con, not enough Bree and Roger. They're not in Voyager a ton, but I just wish there was a little bit more, because I love them and I feel like building them up is very important, but that's okay. All right. So then the last thing that I want to do is just specifically some of my favorite scenes. Oh my gosh. So I already kind of mentioned Jamie and John. I mentioned the one where John makes a move on Jamie. But the other scene I love is when Jamie asks John to take care of his son. And John is going to marry Isabel, which is his son's aunt. And so he will be John's stepfather, basically, because Isabel adopts him. And Jamie asks him to take care of him, and he offers John sex. He offers to let him have sex with him, which is funny to me and funny to John. And in the book, it's cute because he literally ends up on his ass laughing, and Jamie's very offended. And in the book, it's just kind of Jamie's oh, you don't want me? And I love that John's oh, I'm gonna want you until I die, but I would never accept because we'd lose friendship. And I love that John knows that having a good friendship with this man and having him be in his life forever is more important than, a sexual experience with him and the memory of it. He would rather have him in his life and know that he could trust him with his son, which I think the most important thing, and it should be the most important thing. And I love John for that. I love him so much. Next, the reunion episode. A. Malcolm is such an amazing episode. It was an extended episode. When the show was coming out, they made us wait 2 weeks for that one, which they don't usually do. They don't have a break, but they gave us an extra few minutes to it so that they could just basically reenact their wedding night. They're getting to know each other again. Jamie's getting to find out about Bree and look at her pictures and hear all about her, hear about Claire's life. And Claire knows a lot about his life, but there's still a lot she doesn't know. And that whole episode from start to finish is heart-pounding and gut-wrenching and sexy. And they're getting to know one another again. And they've aged. It's been 20 years, but they still know each other so well. And it's so amazing. I love it so much. Marcelly and Fergus's wedding, when Jamie officially gives him his name, and we meet Fergus Claudel Fraser. Do you remember his name was Claudel? His name was Claudel. It's hilarious. But that scene is beautiful, and the whole exchange with the priest about if Fergus still really has his man parts or not is hilarious. It makes me laugh so much. I love it. And then when Lord John Grey dresses down Lieutenant Leonard, that is such a good scene. I rewatched it 3 times in a row. So they're on Jamaica and they're trying to find Ian, and the Porpoise, which is the ship that Claire helped the sick people on, they've been chasing them all the way there because Jamie's a fugitive. He's always a fugitive, and he gets arrested just as they're about to go finally get Ian, like we know where he's at, we're going to go get him, and Jamie gets arrested at the end of episode 12. And in episode 13, John Gray has Jamie brought in and Lieutenant Leonard brought in, and there is this amazing scene where Lord John Gray is saying, who is the governor of Jamaica, is saying, you don't have any proof, you don't even have a warrant for his arrest, and this is my island, so you're in charge on the sea, and at the docks is where my authority begins, so bye-bye, bitch, is basically what happens. And when he says, Lieutenant Leonard, oh my God, just ovaries exploding. You know, Lord John Gray doesn't like women, but that actor does, and he's married, and whatever. But fangirl, I shall, because I freaking love Lord John Gray, and the actor who portrays him is so amazing. I love it so much. So, yeah, I really love season 3. For me, when I look at them, parts of it are the shakiest, and parts of it are the strongest it's ever been. I would say the first 3 episodes and the wedding episode of that are so strong. They're so good. They just rip my guts out. I also really like First Wife. That's a pretty good episode. But the back half of the season, I really only watch my favorite scenes again. I'm not a huge fan of all of it. So this one probably sits, you know, ranking of the first 3. I would probably, which is just bonkers to me that I would do this, but I would probably say that like season 2, season 1, and season 3, which is crazy to me. But season 2, the more I rewatch it, the more powerful it is to me. And I don't know what, but certain episodes, like I would say that A. Malcolm is still one of my favorite episodes because it's amazing. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see my other Outlander content, just click the eye above. I have a whole playlist where I do reviews of the books and then comparing to the TV shows. And next up will be Drums of Autumn, the book review, coming in just a couple weeks. Thanks so much for watching. Again, this is the Book Refuge, and I put up new videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, and you can watch some more of them right now.